Hello and welcome to Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast, the show where two roommates, Korbin and Kody, give their unfiltered opinion on one movie each week. This week on the show, we're going to be talking about the 2016 Best Picture winner, Moonlight.
What did you expect?
As always, I'm your host, Korbin Zvokel.
I'm also here most weeks. Yeah, episode 5, rolling in to some more award-worthy pictures. Also, Spotlight, Moonlight.
Maybe one day we'll do Spotlight with Michael Keaton and Mark Ruffalo and Rachel McAdams.
Just to honor
good movie.
death of XXX for you.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan.
He's got good stuff.
So just starting off, this is probably the most serious movie we've taken on so far by far. Because even Gone Girl, the first movie we did, is a drama, but it still has an air of fiction to it, and it seems so unbelievable. This is a story that's very grounded in real life. Deals with a lot of real world issues of sexuality and race and drug abuse and violence and all of those things. So we are gonna, roll through and have some fun here, but we're taking this movie a little bit more seriously, and we are realizing the gravity, behind what we're talking about, right?
No, I agree. Yeah, and I mean, I don't even know, dude. This movie just affects you differently after you watch it. I think just in general with how it's made, but also obviously the subject matter. But
yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, we are idiots, so we're still gonna laugh.
We're two idiots doing this. So we'll get into kind of why we picked this movie. So it was my turn to choose a movie, and I'm in a class that's called Blacks in Hollywood Film, and this is actually the movie we were watching this week in class. I love this movie. I've seen it a couple times before this. I mentioned at the end of the last podcast that I think this is one of probably the top 4 best movies of the 2010s, maybe top 5. The list shifts a little bit, but I really love this movie a ton, and Kody had never seen it before, so I thought it was a good opportunity. I was going to be rewatching it, and I'd have him watch it, and then we could do the pod over it.
Yeah, any recent Oscar-worthy pictures I probably haven't seen in the last 10 years. And yeah, I missed a good one, I will say. This is a good movie, and I'm glad you made me do your homework for it.
Yeah. I still got to write the paper, actually, but we'll see. But yeah, I think this movie, it both deals with a very important subject, but also is just incredibly beautiful and incredibly well made. So we'll get into talking about the plot a little bit. So similar to another movie that I think came out slightly before this, it often gets compared to. Have you ever seen Boyhood? No. I haven't seen it either, but it gets compared to that in a similar sense, where it's this chapterized, coming of age story where we look at a child and then a teenager and then an adult male, and obviously it's dealing with an African American man who's down in Miami. He's got a mother who's addicted to crack, and he's also dealing with the fact that he's gay. So it kind of it flows through his life, and we pick up at some very important moments. And how do you feel about the way it's set up in like the chapters?
I like it. I mean, the 3 acts, they're obvious where like they're going to go in his life, but that doesn't make it bad. I think the first act, it's maybe a little bit too slow in the beginning, but I mean, just going straight into it. Like the end of the first act where it's Mahershala Ali finding out he's supplying his mom with drugs. Like
And then it
that's
just ends.
tough.
Yeah.
And then him coming to the house and being like, "Are you selling my mom drugs?" Like that's a great moment. I mean, not to watch, but I mean, just like in a story wise, the gripe I do have with this movie is I wish Mahershala Ali was in the second act a little bit. I'm not sure how he won Best Supporting Actor just from like
20 minutes of screen time.
yeah, that's impressive. I'm being honest. He probably deserves it, but if he's in the second act for like just like 10 more minutes, I think that would have been awesome. But I mean, going into the second act, I mean, how long is this movie? Like an hour 50, an hour 40?
Yeah, it's about an hour 50 minutes.
Dude, after the end of the first act, I didn't even like look at my phone the entire time. I just think it was so like well put throughout. Like at the beginning, they're kind of just like little kids, whatever. After that, it's nonstop. Just everything's going on. I don't know. I really like this movie.
No, yeah, it definitely keeps you engaged. And for something that's not, like a big action movie or something that's like you would think is going to draw you in, it's just a story about a guy and you can't take your eyes off of it. My biggest complaint about this movie, and I guess we'll wait for Subita's part, but do you have any other initial thoughts about just what you thought going into this or after watching it?
I mean, the acting in this is unbelievable, especially from the kids. I don't know how even you can make a movie like this today where no one is bad in it. I mean, we'll get this a little later on, but also just it looks beautiful. This is one of the best movies I've ever seen made, just from a technical standpoint, and the story is also really good. So yeah, I mean, just continuing on what I was saying earlier. I mean, the second act, going into the third act, there's like a big jump, and I thought maybe because the second act is really good. I was like, oh crap, we're switching the story, going to the third act. Somehow the third act's better, dude. I love the third act. If the third act was just like a 40-minute movie on its own, I think that would win Best Picture on its own.
Yeah,
I think that's the masterpiece of this film is the last act. It's so subtle. It's not even fast. It's just two guys talking in a cafe for a long time, and I think that's the beauty of it. Sometimes simple is better, and I mean, who directed this?
Barry Jenkins. Yeah.
I don't really know who that is, but I want to see a lot more from him. I'm sure he's made stuff after this, obviously. People were probably just throwing money at him to make anything he wants. But yeah, that third act's absolute masterpiece. Yeah,
I mean the colors and if you look at like any individual shot in this movie, you can just it's like a painting. And I think we talk about some directors that like have that style where they're like very meticulous about what their shot is. But when you actually look at it, you're like, it's not that impressive. But throughout this entire movie, there's not a bad shot. There's not a bad moment, really. Very intentional in what it's doing. And just the way it talks about the struggles in this movie is very different than a lot of movies. So a big thing is drug addiction, right? And his mother is dealing with drug addiction. But it doesn't mince it at all. It takes it full force. It doesn't, hide the fact or like try and make it better, but it doesn't glorify drugs either. It's it's basically just like drugs are a fact of life in the neighborhood that he grew up in. Juan's a drug dealer, his mom takes drugs, and that's just the way it is, and that's the cycle of, a lot of, impoverished Black Americans in this country.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like Juan knows he shouldn't be selling drugs, but I mean, it's just what he has to do. Same with, and that leads to Chiron
himself
sort of doing the same thing,
becoming a drug dealer. Yeah,
which I mean, he knows is wrong, but I mean, what other options did he really have at the time? He just transferred schools to like juvie or whatever, and he found a way in to fit in society, which he hadn't done before.
I mean, yeah, he's a kid who was constantly bullied. And
yeah, I thought that was one of the cooler parallels in the movie going into the third act. You're like, oh crap, this dude basically grew up to be what Juan was.
Yeah, I mean, that opening, the very first scene of the third act where you hear the music playing and Chiron's in the car, I think that's awesome. And you definitely right away, you're like, oh wow, he's basically become Juan.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously, right off the bat, I think we both really love this movie. Think it's great. But let's get into what we maybe what we think the stupidest part of this movie is.
You stupid.
They're not.
I can start if you want.
Go for it.
So, the biggest complaint that I have, and a lot of people have it, I remember I showed my mom this movie and she kind of said the same thing. Nothing really, like a lot happens, but nothing happens. You know, like especially in the end, like the story itself, it's so different from any other movie. And, you know, that's a good thing and a bad thing, where it's very non-traditional in the conflict isn't necessarily resolved in the end. We're kind of just left with, you know, these two guys in their apartment and we don't know what's going to happen. And because it's telling the story of a person's life rather than, you know, a singular event, it's not necessarily like a full story in a way. It relies a little bit more on the visuals and the themes than it does, you know, the actual storyline.
Yeah, I guess it's a character piece. I mean, that's what it is.
Exactly.
We're just following this kid trying to figure out his life. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I had to pick something to complain
I
about,
feel
right?
like just to argue against that, like, I don't know. I think more movies like this should be made where it's just like ultra realistic, actually dealing with issues. I mean, not all movies have to be like some of the movies we were talking about, like Spider-Man or Star Wars, these big action pieces. Obviously, those are going to get made a lot. They're not bad. I enjoy most of them, if I'm being honest. But I mean, if you want to see how to make a movie, this is what you need to watch. I mean, I don't know. I don't really get that argument. Yeah, nothing really happens. But I mean, what were you expecting to happen? It's just a story about a kid trying to figure himself out.
No. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
my take.
What do you think the stupidest part of the movie is?
Yeah, again, it's hard to pick at this movie. I just went for some plot points. The bully, he's kind of just there to be a dick, and I mean, there's a lot of people in real life who are like that. But like the scene in the second act at the beginning where they're just in class, and he's just talking
starts
shit directly at it. And
nothing
nobody
even
seems
happens to
care.
like
Yeah.
spur it. He's just like
And then there's
talking to Chiron about his tampon, and
yeah, and then he doesn't stop for like 2 minutes. The teacher's eventually like, get out. Like, I feel like there would be more consequences to that. Obviously, in a lot of schools there aren't. But yeah, I thought that was dumb. Also, somehow he just randomly one day picked Kevin to fight somebody. And then of course it's gonna be Chiron. Like that was a bit of a coincidence. The day or a couple of days after, you know, they had connected. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to pick plot points in this movie. It's like, oh, that was dumb. But I mean, those were the two. I was like, I mean, you're moving the story along, but I mean, that's kind of not believable.
yeah, I mean his even like him meeting up with Kevin that night is kind of like
That's true too.
it's a big coincidence. There's a little bit of coincidence in this movie, but you know it happens in real life, so I think it's acceptable.
Yeah. That might be the dumbest. I mean, that might be the quickest, dumbest part we'll ever do.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not, and I mean, there's gonna be a couple categories here where we definitely skip, and there's a couple that we're gonna talk about some more. Yeah. So we'll talk about our favorite characters now, which I imagine we'll land on for a while. Who's your favorite character in this movie, Kody?
She is very gorgeous to me.
I mean, it's got to be Chiron. Just from
Which
I
one?
know that's the thing. I would say like the first act is my least favorite, but that's discrediting the kid actor because he's actually phenomenal. Like I don't even know who to pick out of the best three. I mean, the best one out of the three actors because they're all really good.
I think the middle one is the weakest, and that he has the least amount to do. I feel like.
He has the most like physical stuff. I feel like.
Yeah, but he doesn't. He never says anything. Which the younger one doesn't really say anything. He's a very quiet person, obviously, but it's really just like stoic and being there.
I would say my favorite is probably the last one.
Yeah.
I thought at first he was 50 Cent.
Okay, so in my class, we talked about this movie on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And a kid in class goes, when the third act started, I was so confused because I was like, why is 50 Cent in this movie?
He really doesn't.
So you're not the only person who said that. And I when I was rewatching it, then after he said that, I was like, okay, yeah, I agree. He does kind of look like 50 Cent, like a young 50 Cent.
But why he's my favorite character, I think just him putting up that mask and that facade of someone he's clearly not, but someone he had to adapt to be. I don't know. I feel like that's super relatable. Like at times, I feel like everybody just like you pretend to be someone you're not. But this guy's doing it constantly, like day in, day out. And I feel like emotionally, that would just be like scarring. Like I don't even know how you could do that. And then, yeah, eventually him finding his way back to Kevin. that whole conversation at the end they had where he was like, no one else has ever touched me since you. Like, dude, I feel like I wasn't really in a crying mood when I watched this movie, but if I was like in a depressed mood, I probably would have cried like 3 times throughout this movie. Probably early on with when Mahershala Ali was crying, that probably would have got me. Probably when he like stood up against the bully, and then at the very end, like, I don't know, there's a lot of emotional stuff in this movie. And yeah, I mean, I think Chiron, he's got the best arc, I think. I mean, obviously it's focused on him, it's his story. But I mean, usually when I pick favorite character, it's not the main character. But I don't know, man, this movie really focused on him good, and he's definitely my favorite.
Yeah. I was wondering if you were gonna pick Juan or not, and I was considering Juan. And I really do love. I think I love him so much because of what Mahershala Ali does with it.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get to that in a little bit. But I'm actually picking Teresa, and I think it's because she's in the movie a little bit more. She shows up in the second act. She's just so like she's the mother that he never had. I really love the scene when they're making the bed, and she's just kind of like messing with him, trying to make him happy. When they're right before that, when they're having dinner, joking about Juan, giving him the gin. And I think she's just such an important person in his life because even after he loses Juan, I mean, she loses Juan as well. She remains a part of his life and is always taking care of him. And even in the third act, his mom's asking, have you talked to Teresa? And she's still evidently very, important to him. And I think Janelle Monáe is really good in that role. And I would definitely say she's my favorite character.
Yeah, no, she's really good in this too.
Yeah.
Who plays her? Janelle Monáe.
Janelle Monáe, the singer. Yeah, she's in that fun song. Yeah, so she's very talented.
Yeah, she's a good
singer
actress.
Yeah. Good actress. She's in Hidden Figures as well with Mahershala Ali as well.
Nice, haven't seen it.
Yep.
I think my mom likes that movie actually.
that sounds like an Amy Webb movie.
Yeah.
Shout out to Amy Webb. It's probably a Michelle Buckmaster Zvokel movie as well. All right. Now, least favorite character.
Yeah, I picked his mom. I mean, from a character standpoint, she sucks. I mean, obviously drug addiction, like that's already a bad thing to be doing, and then she's not a good mom on top of that.
What about in the third act, though?
Yeah, I mean, she gets her arc. Like, obviously, drug addiction isn't an easy thing to get over, and like she's getting a lot of help now, which is good. Obviously, she does care a lot about Chiron, but I mean, for the character who I like the least in this movie is definitely her. It's hard to choose, but that's my pick.
Naomi Harris, only actress or actor to appear in all 3 acts of the movie. The only constant is his mom.
Nice.
Everyone else is obviously
Switched out.
Janelle Monáe's in the first 2, and then she doesn't show up in the third. But everyone else is played by a different character. My least favorite character is young Kevin.
Young Kevin.
Young Kevin.
What is young Kevin?
That kid's just kind of annoying. I love the middle year Kevin. I think he's hilarious.
Yeah,
he's
awesome.
great. But the young Kevin, first of all, the scene where they're in the bathroom is very strange. If I had to pick a part to remove from the movie, I would probably just that part. It's a little weird. Where they're just all in there with their pants
dicks,
down.
yeah.
Comparing dicks. But I think he's just funny. He's kind of he's just that annoying little kid. And then he messes with Chiron. And he's like, you hard.
He's nice to Chiron.
He's nice, but
They wrestle, dude. Come on.
If I had to pick a least favorite character, I'm gonna pick that little
shade
bit. Their wrestling is very lame too.
They're really tired.
There's no
after,
heart.
10 seconds.
Playing soccer or something. I don't know.
Maybe you just don't like little kids. But
I like little, but I don't know. Chiron, Kevin, the young Kevin. He's just a little.
young Kevin pissed you off. That's dumb.
All right, Kody.
Young Kevin.
Who can act?
Wow.
I mean, dude, like, I don't know. Who can't act in this movie? That's the better question. I don't think anybody's bad, but like I said before, I think all 3 Chirons are pretty good. I think all 3 Kevins are really good. But my best performance is you just
Nah, there wasn't.
my best performance is definitely the mom. What's her name again?
Naomi
Harris.
Harris, yeah.
I mean, I think she's ridiculously good in this movie. I don't know how she didn't win Best Supporting Actress. Yeah, I mean, just she goes through the full slate of emotions from, drug addicted mom, berating her son for money, which is, I'm sure, not that easy to tap into for normal people. And then obviously her full arc at the end where, you do feel for her, but you're still like, dude, you're a dick the entire time. You really shouldn't get like his forgiveness, but you understand why he would give that. I think she's phenomenal in this movie. That's definitely my best actor. I don't know how she didn't win Best Supporting Actress.
Viola Davis beat her out in Fences, the movie with Denzel Washington. I haven't seen it, but
I haven't seen it. I'm sure Viola Davis is really good in that, and if I watched that for the first time, I was probably like, oh, she probably really deserved it. But yeah, Naomi Harris, lights out in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Like I said, she's the only person that's in all three acts, so she's, she plays obviously the crack addict in the first two acts, but then also we see that recovery in the third, which I think is also very important, and she really pulls that off of that remorseful mother who wasn't really there for him when he was younger. I'll say it's the kind of the cop out answer, but Mahershala Ali he won the Oscar for this role, only 20 minutes. He's both like this hardened gangster guy, but also he has a ton of emotion. He's crying there in that final moment that we see him as the emotion overcomes him from the fact that Chiron says to him, "My mom does drugs, right?" And he says, "Yeah, and you sell drugs." Yeah,
dude, that scene is tough.
That is a very tough scene, and I think that's like one of the best scenes ever from any actor probably. Also, I think Middle Kevin is just really funny and hilarious when he's in the stairwell and he's talking about him having sex with that girl, and but he's also super kind and emotional, and that struggle of when he's beating up Chiron and he's like, stay down, you can tell how hard that is for him, because it's he kind of has to do it,
yeah, but
at the same time he's trying to protect someone that he really does care about and has always been friends with. And then I think all three Chirons are great actors. I think I don't know. I think the first and third are probably the two better, but I think the second one's also very great, and hasn't really been in anything. None of them have been in a whole lot, since this movie. It's been 5 years, and
which makes it even more impressive. These are pretty much unknown actors.
Yeah, that's true. And
I don't know, nobody's really bad in this movie, so
very true. Well, and then there's the question: who can act, Kody? Do you have anybody who you didn't think?
Oh yeah.
It's my opinion.
Worst performance. I said. No, obviously I don't mean this seriously, but I said Mahershala Ali. Not because he's bad, but because maybe he's a little overrated. I don't know if he should have won Best Supporting Actor. Obviously, he's great in the 20 minutes he's in, but it's only 20 minutes. I think you basically just won it off that scene alone, which, is understandable because it's a great scene. But, yeah, he's not bad in this movie. I'm not saying that. I'm saying he's probably the most overrated in this movie. That's what I, going into this movie, knew about was, Mahershala Ali's really good, which made it even more surprising when he's dead, when the second act rolled around. But yeah, obviously nobody's bad, but maybe he shouldn't have won Best Supporting Actor. He probably should have. I don't know what I'm talking about, because he's great in this movie. But yeah, that's my pick. Who do you beat? Do you know?
He beat in the 2016 Oscars 89th Academy Awards. He beat Jeff Bridges in Hell or High Water, which I haven't seen. Dev Patel in Lion. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, he's actually good in that. I don't know how he's supporting actor though. I don't know.
Yeah, the Oscars are weird. This year, so Judas and the Black Messiah has Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield in it, and Lakeith Stanfield's probably the main character, but they both got nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and there's no. I don't know who the main actor. Exactly. I like it because I really love Lakeith Stanfield, and if he doesn't get nominated in that category, he probably doesn't get nominated at all. So if they both get nominated, I'm fine. They can both have Oscar nominations. Daniel Kaluuya is probably going to win the award at the end of the night.
Yeah, it's still weird.
It is very strange because then there is no main character in the movie. Yeah. Judas, in the title, Judas is Lakeith Stanfield, and the Black Messiah is Daniel Kaluuya. And
they both should have just been up for Best Actor.
I mean, yeah. Other ones, Michael Shannon in Nocturnal Animals, and then Lucas Hedges in Manchester by the Sea. That is a really good movie, and he's really good, but he's also like 20, and he has plenty of time.
So it was kind of a weak category for that year. It seems
not bad. And I think Mahershala Ali deserved it, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's definitely good.
Talking from having not seen half those performances, he definitely deserved it.
After seeing that list and seeing, 2 out of the 5 of those movies, he probably should have won. But
if you want to call it the worst performance, whatever. I
already did. Let's hear yours.
I don't agree. I don't have anyone. I really don't think there's a bad performance in this movie. If we want to
to pick someone.
Okay, if we want to pick one, I don't even know his name, but the guy that older Chiron Black is getting the money from when he's his drug dealer, the guy that's underneath him that's giving him the money. That's the worst actor in the movie.
When he's fucking with him.
Yeah, he's like you're short, and he starts freaking out. That dude's the worst actor.
He was all right.
I couldn't tell you what his name is. I would find it, but I don't even know. Is his name Travis?
No.
Or is that a different character in the movie? I don't know. That's the worst actor.
Why didn't you just pick little Kevin?
Because he's not a bad actor. He's just an annoying little kid. I really do hate little kids. You're right. I've realized that.
Yeah, like Fred Savage or little Kevin. Both lovable kids, so that's tough.
I like Kevin more than Fred Savage's character in Princess Bride for sure. So here's an interesting category that'll have some interesting thoughts for this movie, especially Kody versus.
Ding ding.
I had that in post.
Yeah,
you don't have to do it. There isn't really like a winner or a loser of this movie. It kind of just ends. We don't really know what happens. I would say if you look at Chiron's life, he probably isn't really a winner. I mean, he's had a no, not in like a bad way. He's just had a really tough hand dealt to him, and he's played the cards that he's been dealt, but he's still never been touched by another person since Kevin. He's been suppressing his sexuality. He's had to become a drug dealer by necessity.
He's going through stuff.
I mean, yeah, he's an experience of the American dream, right?
The thing is,
welcome to America.
With this category, we're looking at would I win the movie? This isn't really a movie. This is real life, dude. There's not a ton of winners and losers in real life. Everybody's just living. So I mean, I feel like we can't really judge.
You want to draw it?
If you throw me into the movie, yeah, I'd say it's a draw. I mean, if you throw me into the movie, we're doing the thing before, so I'm gay and I'm black, right?
No. You are you. So in The Princess Bride, remember you looked like you, and you are you. So
okay, well,
you're a straight white guy. So just by necessity, you're already 20 steps ahead because welcome to privilege.
It'd just be a boring movie. Then.
It's true.
Nothing would really happen.
It's essentially just your life at that point.
It'd just be living.
If you lived in Florida and were maybe a little poorer.
And my mom's a drug addict. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I'd probably just move away.
We'll give you a draw.
Yeah.
So we're what?
I'll take a draw.
2, 1, and 2.
2, 1, and 2. Yeah. Hey, that'll keep you up for playing soccer. But yeah, just since that wasn't really a category, I wanted to throw in here this movie versus the awards. So do you think they should have won Best Picture over La La Land?
Absolutely. Have you seen La La Land?
That's obvious. No.
That movie is not very good.
But then going through...
You haven't even seen La La Land.
I don't care. This movie's great. Going through the other categories, who would have been nominated for Best Actor for this movie? Because you can't really do it with the 3 Chirons.
I mean, yeah, you can't. There isn't a singular actor that's the main character. I mean, I guess it deals with the same thing. You could have nominated any of the Chirons for Best Supporting.
50 Cent, have him show up. No, but do you think, what's her face, his mom, should have won Best Supporting Actress?
I have not seen the Viola Davis performance, but her performance is really good. So, without seeing the actual winner, I will say yes. She should have won.
Okay.
And we haven't even talked about the fact that, obviously, this movie losing to La La Land is kind of a big moment in Oscar history. They announced the wrong movie. Everybody went up on stage, and then they were like, "Oh, there's been an error. It was actually Moonlight."
Well, the thing was, it was just they didn't have the right card.
Right.
When they went up there, they had Emma Stone winning
Best Actress.
Yeah, and then that one was
They just read the title of the movie that was
and you
on
can
there.
kind of see, like, when they open it up, the guy who's supposed to say it, he's like, he doesn't know what to say. Then the girl's like, La La Land! Which, I mean, it makes sense because it's that Emma Stone for La La Land. But, I mean, that's still a big blunder. I feel like that's the most iconic Oscar moment. Probably, I mean, if not all time, at least the last 10 years. Maybe over, well, I don't know.
Parasite winning was pretty huge, but I don't know.
Also,
there wasn't like something, I don't know, it was pretty memorable. But.
I think Leo winning Best Actor should have been, but he had a terrible speech, so.
Yeah, probably, maybe you just talk about the environment or something.
Yeah, he made it about issues instead of how it took
Classic.
20 years, but yeah.
Yeah.
That was my throw-in for the category. Since
you know, I watched this video, I think it was made by like Vox or something, where they talked about like bad typography and like how it caused the issues with the Oscars. So when you look at the card, the very top of the card says the movie. Mm-hmm. And then in the middle of the card, it says the name of the person. And then at the bottom, it says what the category is. So it said, the very first thing when you look at the card, it says La La Land. And then it says Emma Stone, and then it says Best Supporting Actress at the end. So if you just, that lady probably just looked, first thing she saw, La La Land, boom, said it. And then obviously that's what happened. And the fact that this movie won is honestly, and that La La Land didn't, is very surprising. The Oscars are traditionally, you know, very white. And
La La Land was like a tribute to old school Hollywood.
Yeah,
which you would think they would
it's a very Oscar, it's about, you know, two white people dancing in Hollywood, and you know what do the Oscars love more than that? And the bad guy's John Legend.
Even better for them.
Yeah, this kind of marked a little bit of a turning point in the Oscars that, you know, continued through, you know, with Parasite winning last year, and you know this year we have one of the most diverse Oscar pools ever. You know, first Asian American to be nominated for Best Actor, an Asian woman to be nominated for Best Director. You know, really diverse grouping of movies.
Which
this
was
year.
a long time coming, and
Absolutely,
it should have been that way for a long time.
But I think this movie kind of marked a turning point.
Yeah.
You have the Green Book thing that kind of set us back a few years. We won't get into that.
Mahershala Ali's in that movie too.
He won Best Supporting Actor.
At least he was in the movie
a year later, or 2 years later, for Green Book. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to what to add to Fortnite.
It's the guy from Fortnite!
And I don't really have. This movie doesn't really have anything that's very Fortnite-esque. I would say, you know, Fortnite's not necessarily a beautiful game.
No.
So maybe Fortnite can just take some stylistic and aesthetic choices, and some direction and some ideas from this movie. You know, add a little bit more color, some blues. I think when it's night in Fortnite, it sucks. Take some moments from the third act of this movie and use that as inspiration. There's a podcast that I listen to that they talk about this thing where when movie directors that like make superhero movies will like talk about the things that influence them. So like the Russo brothers will be making Infinity War, and then they'll say, oh, we were influenced by like all these super obscure like 60s and 70s movies that are like super artsy and don't have anything to do with the superhero movie, but they just say it influences them. Yeah. So I'd like Fortnite to just say that Moonlight has influenced their new aesthetic, whether or not it really does. The other thing, you know, just Miami is pretty cool. Maybe throw some palm trees, and you know, the houses in Miami are really cool. I think those could make some good buildings and locations in Fortnite if they drew some inspiration there, especially down by like Slurpee Swamp.
Wow. All right, good picks. Yeah, those are definitely your worst picks you've had. Yeah, no, I mean, I usually don't have good picks anyway, so let's just roll through mine. I said let's get a Mahershala Ali skin.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, he looks kind of cool. Also get a 50 Cent skin with the but the real guy, I don't know his name. Yeah, my big one that I was you know, really pounding on this week, let's get grills in Fortnite, dude. Those gold grills he has is sick. If you could like customize each character to where they have grills, I mean, that'd be the peak of Fortnite. I'd actually pay for that. If they're like, oh, it's a $50 add-on for grills, I'd be like, take $100. I don't even care. That'd be the best thing ever in Fortnite.
There'd probably be some complaints of some sort of cultural appropriation there, and I don't really want to.
That's not cultural appropriation.
I don't want to get into that argument, but
what are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm just telling you what.
All right, when I get grills next week, then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Baloney.
Do you do you, man? All right. So now we're gonna move on to replace. Oh, did you have more?
No, I just got called out for absolutely nothing. Keep going.
No, I wasn't calling you out.
Yeah,
I was just... Okay. Who would you replace in this movie?
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
I said no one really. I do.
You gotta pick someone.
I will. I will. I don't really want to replace anybody. I'm gonna do a cop-out answer and throw somebody into the third act. So I want the bully to come back, whatever his name was in the movie, and I want him to be played by John David Washington. That'd be sick if like Chiron and Kevin are like eating at the diner or whatever, and this dude walks in and is like, "Holy crap, I'm a terrible person. I'm so sorry, guys." And it's John David Washington.
I think that's way too cheesy, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, but who are you gonna replace in this movie? I'm not gonna take anybody out, so I just wanted to. I was like, who's another really good actor who'd be great in this movie? And I mean, John David Washington at this time was, pretty much unknown. So
This is 2 years before Black Klansman, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not anything.
So I think he
fits into
that.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's also a really good actor. And I was just trying to think of like a younger character who we didn't see in the third act. Because John David Washington's not gonna play in the kids roles. Maybe he could have been like a teacher or something. I just want John David Washington in the movie, basically.
Interesting. I also didn't really know who to pick for this, and
pick somebody.
when I do these, I didn't say I wasn't picking someone. When I do these, you always get mad because I always replace people that are really good. I always replace someone.
You're terrible at this.
I replace someone who's really good in the movie.
You're good at Fortnite. You're bad at casting directly.
I replace someone who's really good in this movie with someone who would also be good, but you just get mad. So I'm gonna replace your boy 50 Cent, Trevante Rhodes.
He's so good in this.
He is really good. Just put Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, come on.
You have not seen. You have not seen Fruitvale Station, correct?
No, I haven't seen that.
You have not seen that movie.
He's good.
And that movie proves to me that he could play that role of Black just as well.
Yeah, he's too big name though.
Yeah, true, but we're not actually like paying these people.
Exactly.
When
I was thinking about
this
that.
is like the year
The
before.
budget wasn't big enough. He would have made it in.
This is the year before Black Panther came out, and like probably a year after Creed, right? Yeah, a year after Creed. So yeah, obviously he's too big at the time, but
I mean, yeah, he would have been good.
he's really good. Honestly, Ryan Coogler directing this movie, maybe. I just thought of that. That dude doesn't miss, to be entirely honest with
he's
you.
good.
But
I wouldn't take Barry Jenkins off.
he doesn't. Yeah, I don't think he does like the beauty as well.
No.
He's really good at like story and directing actors, but
Yeah.
this movie is just so aesthetically pleasing that I think we would lose out on with Ryan Coogler. Alrighty, so now we're gonna move on to the IMDb trivia.
Naked grandma. Naked, huh?
Some really good ones here, I think. So this is pretty interesting. In an interview, Barry Jenkins actually said that the three actors who play Chiron never even met each other when they were doing this movie. He wanted it for each of them to build their own persona of what the character would be. So there's no influence from any of the portrayals. They did the same thing with Kevin.
Wow.
And I think that kind of shows through a little bit, especially with Kevin. I feel like Kevin is pretty drastically different in like the way he is across the three acts. But I mean, it's a growth of maturity,
It's
right?
been 10 years since he's in high school, yeah.
He doesn't look the same. Like his
He looks a lot different.
his kid version to his teenage version don't look
Yeah, they don't
similar at all. They're completely different skin tones, and the two older versions look somewhat similar of Kevin. But I think Chiron, other than the fact that he gets super muscular, looks pretty similar.
Which makes sense for his character, though.
Yeah. Like I mentioned this earlier, but Naomi Harris is the only actor to appear in all three acts. Bringing up our boy, haven't talked about him yet on the pod, but Brad Pitt, one of my faves, is actually
I hadn't talked about him. I think in Princess Bride, I said.
Oh,
I
you wanted Brad
him.
Pitt? Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. Brad Pitt's coming up again then, and he had an early meeting with Barry Jenkins in order to get the necessary funds and the distribution deal that he needed to make this movie. And I think that's something that it's really awesome that Brad Pitt has done. He has a production company, and he's taken a lot of black voices and helped them make their movies. So this movie, Selma, 12 Years a Slave, Brad Pitt also like played a role in helping produce and gain funds for all those movies.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Good job, Brad.
The car that Black drives, the adult version of Chiron, on the back, his license plate says Black 305.
Does it? I don't know.
I didn't notice that either, but yeah, so 305, obviously the area code of Miami, Mr. 305.
He got vanity plates.
He got I don't know if I respect
that. I don't like
that.
Chiron anymore. If you have vanity plates, what are you doing? Come on.
And then the last thing, even though this movie's set in obviously a rough neighborhood, there's guns shown throughout. Chiron has one. There's some early on in the movie. Not a single round is fired throughout the entire movie. And I think that goes back to what I was saying about drugs a little bit, but it also, with guns, it doesn't necessarily glorify gun violence or the use of guns. Characters have guns because they feel they need to have them and they're part of their lives, but they're not, shooting each other or killing each other. I mentioned Boys in the Hood last pod, and at the beginning of the movie, there's a thing about how a large amount of black males will end up getting shot and died, and then a large portion of that happens from black males shooting each other. And when you first watch that movie and that pops up at the beginning, it seems kind of like it's detracting from the real issue here. It's like black on black violence is a dumb and made up thing that people talk about just to paint black people in a poor manner. But then when you get into that movie, I think it shows the violence that occurs and the ways it occurs in a lot different of a way than that initial title makes you think. But in this movie, there is no killing. Juan dies, but it's completely off screen. So there's no glorification or there's no pushing of that agenda that people are always going to shoot and kill each other in poor communities, which I think is really good.
And yeah, I think that just lends to the ultra realistic take of this movie. I feel like guns aren't really used that much.
It's more of an intimidation
in real life, yeah. And I think they played into the whole community and culture in an actual realistic way that the audience can relate to and not just be overwhelmed by this is all stereotypes or sort of things you're saying. Yeah.
All right. And then finally, we're going to be giving our ratings of this film.
You're going to look at me and you're going to tell me that I'm wrong? Am I wrong?
It's my favorite. Oh.
Cody, you want to take it away?
What I give? What's my highest rating so far?
Pulling it up.
Do you know?
I believe it was The Princess Bride. I think you gave it a 65.
No way, I gave it a 65.
I'm pretty sure you did.
Pretty sure it's a 63 or 64.
63. I'm pulling it up. Princess Bride, 64.
I gave it a 64. Okay, it's at a 69 for no reason, obviously. I give it Princess Bride a 64. All right, I'll give this. I'll give it a 67 out of 69.
I just want to say
that is very high.
This whole time, I've been giving movies kind of lower conservative scores, and you've been giving me shit for it. And now,
yeah, I am giving you shit because you're not giving good scores.
Now you see that The Princess Bride is a 64.
Yeah.
And this movie's a 67. You think it's only...
Well, I just want to space them out because this is a better movie than...
I know, but you think it's only that much better?
Yeah. I
think this movie is boundlessly better.
Obviously, this movie's better than The Princess Bride from a nostalgic standpoint. That's why I gave it that score. If you want to go see my review on The Princess Bride, go past episode. You'll love it. Yeah, this movie... What did I just say? 67 out of 69? That's near perfection, dude. That's an A. If not an A+, if we're going by middle school standards or whatever. I can't find a flaw in this movie. Like I've said a billion times, great acting, great story. Obviously, it's shot beautifully. It's sort of just this hauntingly beautiful movie where, at the end of it, you're sort of just questioning, do I relate to this guy because he's cool, or do I relate to him because he's going through some emotional crap and it's really deep. I don't know. After I watched this movie, I just thought about my life for a long time. I feel like that's what this movie does to you. And yeah, it's one of the better ones I've seen in a long time. So I think 67 is a pretty good score to give it.
As somebody who makes videos and not necessarily, I don't necessarily have a dream of making feature films or anything like that. But I really appreciate that what goes into making a movie like this. And when you watch something as powerful as Moonlight, you really think to yourself movies can be something like this. This is what a movie can be. This is the full extent of the power that a motion picture can have, and it's astounding to me. And the fact the matter, like, this movie was made for, like, less than $2 million.
It probably could have been made for less.
I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, even, like, Mahershala Ali probably, like, took up a decent bit of that, because he's, you know, a decently popular actor in 2016. Yeah. Naomi Harris, Janelle Monáe, like, they're all somewhat well-known people. But, yeah, I mean, very cheaply made. It makes you think that, like, if we weren't complete idiots, we could make something like this, like, on a low budget and with, like, just, like, a dream and idea. Like, you can create something beautiful that, like, resonates with millions of people. So it's very inspiring. I'm going to give this movie a 65, which, I mean,
That's
on my scale,
is
that's 10 higher than Gone Girl. Gone Girl's a 55. Leaving myself a little room, because there's definitely are movies that I do enjoy more than this, and I think we'll probably watch them at some point on the podcast. But 65, yeah, so it gives us a total of 66, easily our highest score of any movie yet so far. Second place is Gone Girl with a 57.5.
I bet that's our highest for a long time. I don't think I'll enjoy a movie better than this one, and you're the low scorer, so
we'll see what happens. Finally, just some recommendations or things you've been watching recently.
You go first.
So I watched Inside Out today.
Did you really?
That first time I ever saw that. Not too shabby of a movie. Definitely not the best Pixar movie.
You hadn't
by
seen
any
that
means.
before?
But yeah, no. I missed a lot of animated movies. I can tell you what not to watch. I watched Godzilla, the 2014 version. Don't watch that movie. It's called Godzilla, but Godzilla doesn't show up until about the 53-minute mark. And he's just swimming around for another 40 minutes, and it's not until about an hour and a half into the 2-hour movie that Godzilla finally gets out of the water and does something. So don't recommend that. And then
I think a lot of people actually really like that movie.
The original one, I don't know.
2014 one, yeah. I think it's sort of like you either love it or you hate it. One of those movies, sort of like The Last Jedi. I haven't seen it. I probably wouldn't like it because I don't really like monster movies. But yeah, interesting.
It's okay. And then finally, yesterday I started watching on a Wednesday. I rewatched Good Will Hunting, which to me is also just like probably a perfect movie. It's very like simple in its construction. We watched it last summer in a screenwriting class I took, and just talking about like it's a very simple script, but it's like so perfect and to the T and fine tuned. And again, it's another example of like here was like two 20-year-olds who just were friends and wrote a script and won an Oscar for it. So amazing movie, amazing performances, and started a lot of powerful people's careers.
Definitely. That's 100% one of my favorites. It really shouldn't work. It's just like, yeah, like you said, two young guys from Boston and a dramatic Robin Williams. Which, I mean, on paper at that time, probably wasn't like, oh, this is going to be really good. But, yeah, definitely one of my top 5 favorites.
Also, I finished watching Justice League. And
oh, did you finish it? I thought you were
finally
10-minute increments.
Oh, yeah, getting there. And it's in some ways better than the original, but in some ways also very much worse. So didn't need to be 4 hours long, that's for sure. That's all I have to say. Nice. I will never speak of it again.
But yeah, last week I had a hankering to watch the Jump Street movie, so I watched the first one the other day. Very good. Gonna watch the second one soon. I also finished How I Met Your Mother. Thank the Lord.
Right as I walk in and say you want to record the pod.
Oh yeah,
just the final scene.
Last episode's not very good, but
yeah.
The last season's better than I remembered. But yeah, another thing I watched this week, Cool Runnings, dude. Absolutely underrated gem that probably a lot of people missed. Just super quotable, super lovable. I mean, one of those movies where you, like I said, if you're in an emotional mood, you're probably gonna cry at the end. That's my no. You watch that movie,
Jamaican Bobs,
all sad, dude. It's a tearjerker at the end. Also, have you seen the movie The Rookie with Dennis Quaid?
No.
Also a tearjerker.
You've been crying a lot?
No, just good sports movies. That has been on my mind lately. But yeah,
gotcha.
Those are all my recommendations for the week.
All right. So I think you're gonna be picking the next movie. Do you have it in mind yet, or are you still thinking?
I forgot it was my turn. No, I have to come up with a movie. I would tell the audience I'm not like
you don't want to leave them hanging.
No, they'd be like, "Oh, I like that movie. I'll watch it too." Then they can watch the episode with us.
My final question for you is this a top 5 movie of the last 10 years?
I mean, I haven't seen all the supposedly really good movies, but I mean, yeah, from my perspective, yeah, sure, why not? Top 5.
Yeah, I definitely think this for sure. All right. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll catch you next Tuesday. And
I'm sure my pick will be dumb, so we'll be back to lots of Fortnite jokes. Stay capping.
fair enough. See you.